Elias Venn woke up to a soft hum. The light streaming through the wide windows of the laboratory made the metallic surfaces shine like silver. Something felt different. He rubbed his eyes and looked around. The lab, usually filled with the quiet buzz of machines and the faint smell of chemicals, seemed warmer, brighter. Even the plants in the corner were standing taller than usual, their leaves glistening with moisture. He took a slow breath. The previous night was a blur. There had been an experiment with the bio-cryo chamber, an experiment meant to study plant growth under controlled energy pulses. But he remembered feeling dizzy, a strange tingling in his hands, and then nothing. Now he was awake, and everything seemed alive. Across the lab, Dr. Leora Kane sat on a high stool, her legs swinging lightly. She was staring at one of the bio-cryo plants, her expression calm but thoughtful. The air around her seemed almost warmer. Elias approached cautiously. "Leora," he said softly. "Are you okay?" Leora turned her head, eyes meeting his. There was a gentle smile on her face, but her words were cryptic. "I'm just full," she said. Elias froze. "Full?" Leora nodded slowly. "Yes. Full. Of something. I don't know how to explain it. Everything feels connected. Alive. And I feel like I can give life without needing anything in return." Elias blinked. He wanted to ask more, but a part of him hesitated. Something in her tone was both beautiful and strange, like she had discovered a secret of the universe without saying it outright. He decided to check the readings on the lab monitors. The screens were glowing with colors he had never seen before, vivid greens, blues, and soft purples that pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. Data streamed across the screen, showing accelerated growth in plants, faster metabolic changes in small animals, and something unusual in humans. Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. He looked at Leora. "Did you notice any changes in yourself last night?" Leora tilted her head, thinking, "Yes. I felt warm. I could feel the plants, even the little lab animals, like they were part of me. And I wasn't hungry. Not at all. I just absorbed energy from the room. And from life." Elias frowned, trying to make sense of it. "Absorbed energy? Leora, that's impossible." She shook her head softly. "Maybe it was impossible yesterday. But today..." She laughed quietly, a musical sound that made the lab feel less like a workplace and more like a garden. "I don't feel like me anymore. But I feel better, stronger, connected." Elias stared at her, amazed. He had spent years studying genetics, ecosystems, and human biology. But nothing had prepared him for this. Could it be that their experiment with the bio-cryo chamber triggered something new? Something that linked humans to the energy of life around them? Before he could speak again, the lab's AI, Ether, chimed in with a calm voice. "Good morning, Dr. Venn." "Dr. Kane. I have detected abnormal biochemical activity in Dr. Kane. Her metabolic energy output is 3 times the standard human range. Nutrient absorption is optimal. Emotional indicators show high satisfaction and calmness." Elias glanced at Leora. You're glowing?" She smiled. "Not glowing, exactly. But I feel radiant. Like I can nurture everything around me." Elias shook his head. "This is incredible. I need to run tests, measure everything, record every change. This could..." "Not right now," Leora interrupted. "Just watch. Listen. Feel. The plants. The animals. Even the air. It's teaching us something. Something we can't measure with instruments yet." He hesitated, then realized she was right. They had been so focused on data, on formulas and readings, that they forgot what the bloom, the strange energy phenomenon that had started affecting their habitat, was really about. Eos Haven, the orbital habitat where they lived, was built to be a self-sustaining ecosystem. Humans, plants, animals, and machines existed in careful balance. But recently, a new energy pulse had appeared in the habitat's atmosphere. Scientists had called it The bloom. It affected everything differently. Plants grew faster, animals behaved unusually intelligent, and humans changed in ways no one understood. Elias walked to one of the windows, looking out at the vast space beyond the habitat. Stars twinkled like tiny lanterns, scattered across a black velvet canvas. He could see the gardens suspended in midair, floating in the low gravity, and the shimmering water channels that fed them. Everything looked serene, peaceful, alive. "I think," Elias whispered, more to himself than to Leora. "This is what humans have been waiting for. Not war, not conquest, not machines, but this. Harmony with life." Leora joined him at the window. "Yes. But harmony is more than observation. We have to participate. Live it." Elias nodded. "Then let's begin." The first step was simple. They walked through the laboratory gardens. Leora touched the leaves of a plant, and it seemed to quiver gently under her hand. Birds perched nearby and chirped softly, not afraid, but curious. Small animals peeked from behind rocks and plants. Every living thing seemed to sense Leora's presence, reacting to her calm energy. Elias noticed a change in himself too. He could feel the life around him more vividly than before. The scent of the soil, the rustle of leaves, the tiny heartbeat of animals, it all resonated within him. For the first time, he understood what Leora meant by full. It wasn't about food. It wasn't about desire. It was about being part of something larger, something alive. Hours passed, and the two scientists explored the entire lab. They measured nothing. They recorded nothing. They simply observed, interacted, and learned. Leora fed a small, sickly plant with her hands, and it flourished immediately. Elias helped guide a tiny bird back to its nest, and it sang a melody that seemed almost thankful. When evening came, the artificial sky of Eos Haven shifted to soft oranges and pinks. The habitat's lighting system mimicked the setting sun, bathing the gardens in warm colors. Humans walked along the suspended pathways, unaware of the extraordinary changes in Elias and Leora, but feeling somehow lighter, happier. Elias and Leora sat on the edge of a floating platform, dangling their legs above a pool of luminescent water. "Do you think this is permanent?" Elias asked. Leora shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But for now, it feels right." She laughed softly. "And I think we're just getting started." Elias smiled, a warmth spreading through him. "Then we'll discover it together." They stayed there in silence for a while, watching the gentle shimmer of the habitat. For the first time, Elias felt a sense of hope that went beyond science, beyond experiments, beyond achievement. It was a simple, profound hope that humans, with all their flaws and fears, could still find harmony with life itself. As night fully fell, the lights of Eos Haven dimmed to mimic moonlight. The hum of the habitat was soft but steady. The plants, animals, and humans all seemed to pulse gently with the energy of life. And somewhere deep inside, Elias and Leora both understood that something extraordinary had begun, something that could change not only them, but all of humanity. And in that moment, Leora whispered, almost to herself, but loud enough for Elias to hear, "I'm just full." The next morning, Elias woke early. The hum of Eos Haven was familiar, comforting even. But he felt a strange anticipation in his chest. Leora was already awake, walking among the lab gardens, her fingers gently brushing the leaves of each plant as if greeting old friends. "Good morning," Elias said quietly, not wanting to startle her. Leora turned, her eyes bright and calm. "Morning," she replied. "I slept well. And you?" Elias nodded. "I did. But I can't stop thinking about yesterday. About everything." She smiled softly. "That's normal. We are part of something new. It's only natural to feel curious and a little nervous." Curious. Nervous. Those words barely captured what Elias felt. He had spent years in controlled experiments, in labs where every variable was calculated, every outcome predicted, and yet now, nothing was predictable. He didn't know how Leora's body had changed, how the bloom had affected her, or what this meant for humanity. He followed her to the main observation room, a space that overlooked the central gardens of Eos Haven. Light filtered through crystal windows, bouncing off the suspended water channels and the floating platforms. The gardens were alive with energy, the plants swaying gently as if breathing in rhythm with the humans walking below. Ether's calm voice broke the silence. "Dr. Venn, Dr. Kane, I have compiled preliminary observations regarding the bloom's effects. Dr. Kane's energy output is consistent with human metabolic ranges, enhanced by 200%. Other humans in the habitat show minor increases in sensory perception and empathy. Plant growth has accelerated by 150%. No adverse effects detected." Elias frowned. "Minor increases in empathy?" "Yes," Ether replied. "Residents report heightened understanding of each other's emotions, increased cooperation, and improved problem-solving abilities. All effects are non-invasive and reversible if the bloom diminishes." Leora tilted her head, thinking, "That makes sense. I could feel it yesterday. Not just in myself, but in the plants, animals, and even in the other people. Everyone was calmer, happier, more connected." Elias sat down, staring at the floor. "If this is true, it's incredible. The bloom isn't just an energy pulse. It's evolution in progress. Not forced, not artificial. It's teaching humans how to grow mentally, emotionally, physically." Leora's gaze softened. "And not just humans. Look at the plants and animals. Everything here is thriving. It's not domination, it's harmony." Elias stood abruptly, a spark of excitement lighting his face. "We need to study this carefully. Measure changes, observe behavior, record every reaction. If we understand this, we could help humanity thrive wherever we go. Other planets, other habitats, the possibilities are endless." Leora nodded. "Yes. But we must be careful. The bloom is new, and we don't fully understand it yet. It's tempting to rush, to experiment. But we must remember that life is delicate. We are guests here, not masters." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft rustling. A small creature, no larger than a rabbit but covered in iridescent fur, emerged from the garden. It hopped closer to Leora, sniffing the air, then gently nudged her hand. She laughed quietly. "See? Even the animals trust it. And me." Elias crouched to observe the creature. "It's remarkable. Their behavior, it's almost intelligent. They're more aware, more responsive. The bloom is affecting them too." "Yes," Leora said, her hand resting on the creature's back. "And that's why we must learn from it. We can't control it. We can only understand it, and then choose how to act responsibly." Elias nodded, his mind racing. He thought about the humans who had colonized Eos Haven. Most were busy with daily tasks, gardening, maintenance, teaching, learning, but now, the bloom was subtly influencing everyone. Conflicts dissolved faster, cooperation increased, and creativity blossomed. He thought about yesterday, about the calm he felt while walking through the gardens. He realized the bloom wasn't just changing biology, it was changing humanity itself. It was teaching people how to work together, how to care for life, how to respect the balance of nature. Leora looked at him, reading his thoughts. "It's beautiful, isn't it? Not because it makes life easy, but because it reminds us of what we can be, what humans can be." Elias smiled faintly. "Yes, beautiful, and frightening. We've never seen anything like this. What if we don't understand it fully? What if we make mistakes?" She shook her head. "Then we learn. That's what humans do best. We adapt. We survive. And sometimes, we thrive. The two scientists spent the next few hours walking through the habitat, observing. They noted how small children played in ways that showed unusual empathy, helping each other, and even comforting animals. Teachers in the floating schools noticed students working together creatively, inventing games and tools. Engineers designing new structures collaborated seamlessly, their ideas flowing effortlessly. Even the gardens themselves seemed to respond. Plants grew toward people, not for sunlight alone but as if seeking interaction. Flowers bloomed more brightly near children, and small vines twined gently around supportive hands. Life here was no longer separate, it was connected. Elias felt a stirring in his chest. Humanity had always believed in progress through tools, machines, and knowledge. But perhaps the true evolution was something simpler: understanding, empathy, and harmony with life. By afternoon, they returned to the lab. Leora placed her hand on the bio-cryo chamber. "I want to see if we can help more plants adapt to the bloom. If humans can change, maybe the ecosystem can too. We could grow food faster, sustain more life, and maybe even help other habitats survive." Elias nodded, feeling excitement and responsibility intertwined. "Yes, but let's take it slow. Every change must be measured. We can't rush nature, even if it seems ready for us." Aether's voice filled the room again. "I have prepared a simulation program to observe potential outcomes of human bloom interactions. Dr. Kane's energy patterns can be integrated as a model." Leora smiled. "Good. Let's start there. And we'll observe directly too. We'll learn from life itself." As they worked, Elias noticed how Leora moved. There was a calm grace in her actions, a serenity that seemed to influence everything around her. Even the lab equipment seemed to hum more quietly, responding to her energy. He realized that Leora was no longer just a human in a lab coat. She was a bridge between humanity and life itself. Hours passed. The simulation showed astonishing results. Humans enhanced by the bloom could cultivate plants that produced more nutrients, animals that thrived even in harsh conditions, and ecosystems that were resilient and self-sustaining. The potential for space colonization, for thriving life on distant planets, suddenly felt within reach. But there was also a subtle warning. The bloom was powerful, and humans were still learning how to interact with it responsibly. Careless experimentation could disrupt the balance, and the consequences could ripple through the habitat. Elias turned to Leora. "This is amazing, but I understand now why you said you were full. It's not just your body. It's your mind, your spirit, your connection to life. You're experiencing the bloom in a way most humans haven't yet. And it's teaching you. Teaching all of us." Leora nodded, smiling faintly. "Yes, and it's a reminder that we're not alone. Humanity isn't separate from life. We're part of it. And maybe, just maybe, we can help it flourish." As night fell, the habitat shifted to its soft moonlight mode. Floating platforms glowed faintly. The gardens pulsed with gentle energy, and the small creatures settled into the foliage. Humans moved quietly, unconsciously influenced by the bloom, to rest, reflect, and prepare for the next day. Elias and Leora stood together by a window, looking out at the stars. The vastness of space stretched infinitely, but they felt no fear. The bloom had shown them that life could thrive, even in the most unexpected places, if humans embraced understanding, compassion, and collaboration. "I wonder how far this can go," Elias said softly. Leora rested her hand on his shoulder. "As far as we let it, as far as we choose to grow. The bloom is not a force to control, it's a teacher, and we are its students." Elias nodded, feeling a sense of purpose stronger than anything he had known before. The bloom was more than an experiment, more than a mystery. It was a gift, a chance for humanity to evolve, not through conquest or technology, but through empathy, cooperation, and respect for life itself. And somewhere deep inside, both Elias and Leora understood that this was only the beginning. The morning sun of Eos Haven rose slowly, casting a soft golden light across the floating gardens. Elias and Leora walked together through the suspended pathways, the gentle hum of the habitat mingling with the quiet rustle of leaves. Life seemed brighter, more vibrant than ever before. Birds sang harmoniously in the treetops, and even the smallest plants leaned toward the sun, as if soaking in its energy more eagerly than usual. Elias stopped at a small cluster of glowing flowers. Their petals had an almost translucent quality, and as he touched one lightly, it pulsed gently beneath his fingers. "It's incredible," he murmured. "I've never seen plants respond like this, not just growing faster, but almost communicating." Leora smiled, kneeling beside him. "That's the bloom," she said softly. "It's teaching us to see life differently, not as separate things, plants, animals, humans, but as one connected system." Elias glanced at her. "And you seem more connected than anyone I've ever known. How do you feel?" Leora tilted her head, thinking. "It's hard to explain. I feel like I'm part of everything. The plants, the animals, even the people. I can sense their needs, their happiness, their struggles, all at once, and I feel calm, full, complete. It's not just my body. It's my mind and my heart too." Elias nodded, understanding dawning. "That's why you said you were full. It wasn't about hunger. It was everything. Life, yes," Leora replied. "And that's what makes this so important. The bloom isn't just a change in biology. It's a chance for humans to evolve emotionally, spiritually, and socially. To grow without harming anything. To thrive in harmony." They walked on in silence for a while, observing small groups of humans working together in the gardens. Children shared tools and ideas freely. Older residents guided the plants with patience and care, and engineers collaborated in ways that seemed effortless. The bloom had subtly changed everyone. Cooperation was natural. Empathy was instinctive. Creativity flowed freely. Elias watched a group of students floating above a water channel, constructing a small irrigation system. "Look at them," he said. "They're learning faster, thinking in ways that feel more complete. The bloom is helping them see patterns, understand life, anticipate problems before they occur. And they're happy doing it." Leora nodded. "It's like the bloom is a teacher, showing us how to be better humans without forcing us. It encourages curiosity, empathy, and cooperation. And it works best when we participate, not control." Elias frowned thoughtfully. "Do you think this could work outside the habitat? On a planet? Or a new colony?" Leora considered this. "Maybe. But only if humans remember the lesson. If they try to dominate or exploit life, it could fail. The bloom doesn't reward greed or force. It rewards understanding, care, and connection." They returned to the lab, where Ether's screens displayed the latest data. Human responses to the bloom were diverse, but overwhelmingly positive. Emotional intelligence had increased across the population, creativity and problem-solving were improving, and minor conflicts had dropped significantly. Even the simplest interactions, sharing food, teaching, guiding animals, had become more meaningful and effective. Elias stared at the numbers, feeling a mix of awe and responsibility. This is more than a discovery. It's a revolution. If humans embrace it, we could change the way we live on every world we touch. Leora's expression was calm but determined. And if we fail, well, we'll learn from our mistakes. That's what humans do. But I believe we'll succeed. We've already started." They spent the rest of the morning observing small experiments with plants and animals. Leora gently guided a sickly vine toward the sunlight, and it grew stronger within minutes. Elias helped a small group of birds adjust to a new habitat module, and they chirped in what sounded like gratitude. Elias laughed softly. "It's like the bloom is teaching us how to nurture life instead of just manage it." "Exactly," Leora said, her eyes shining. "We've spent centuries learning how to control the world. But maybe the next step is learning how to be part of it. By afternoon, they decided to explore the habitat further. They floated along the glass corridors that connected the gardens, observing humans engaged in various activities. Some were experimenting with new methods of growing food. Others were developing art inspired by the bloom, capturing the subtle energy patterns in vibrant colors. Music floated through the air, composed in harmony with the sounds of nature itself. Elias felt a wave of hope. Humanity had always been capable of great creativity, but the bloom amplified it in ways that felt magical. And yet, it was more than magic. It was science, evolution, and understanding intertwined. Leora stopped by a small pool where glowing fish swam gracefully. She knelt and held her hand near the water. The fish swirled toward her, moving as if guided by her energy. "Do you see?" she said. "Life responds when we care, when we listen, when we give." Even without expecting anything back, Elias watched, fascinated. "It's beautiful. And it's teaching us patience, empathy, and cooperation at the same time. No one has ever given humans this kind of gift." Leora smiled. "Maybe it's not a gift. Maybe it's a reminder of what we've always had the potential to be." Elias nodded. "Yes. And I think we're just starting to understand it." They returned to the lab as the day progressed. Leora worked with a group of volunteers to test new ways of enhancing plant growth without using artificial chemicals. Elias observed, taking notes. But mostly he watched the interactions, the laughter, the shared discoveries, the quiet moments of learning. The bloom wasn't just changing biology. It was shaping community, culture, and connection. By evening, the sky of Eos Haven had shifted to the soft pink and orange hues of the artificial sunset. Floating platforms reflected the colors, and the gardens glowed faintly in response to the fading light. Children played near the water channels, creating games that incorporated both the physical space and the subtle energy of the bloom. Adults shared stories and ideas, building small inventions inspired by the ecosystem. Elias stood beside Leora on one of the platforms, watching the scene unfold. "Do you think humans will understand what this means?" he asked softly. Leora placed a hand on his arm. "Some will, some won't. But understanding doesn't happen all at once. It grows slowly, just like the plants. And even small understanding can change the world." Elias smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "Then we'll help them. Teach them. Guide them. But gently, like you said. Without forcing, without controlling." Leora nodded, her expression calm and confident. "Exactly. We will be part of the learning, not the rulers of it. And in time, humanity will grow not just in knowledge, but in empathy, creativity, and harmony with life." As night fully fell, the habitat's lights dimmed, mimicking moonlight. The floating gardens glowed faintly, and the water channels shimmered. Small creatures nestled in the foliage, humans rested peacefully, and the ecosystem pulsed softly with life. Elias and Leora stood together in silence, taking it all in. The bloom had transformed more than biology. It had transformed perspective, behavior, and connection. It had shown humanity a new path, one of understanding, care, and shared growth. Elias finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's amazing. I can feel it. In the air, in the water, in every living thing. We're part of it now." Leora smiled faintly. "And that's the beginning. The beginning of something greater than any invention, any machine, any discovery. The beginning of humans learning how to truly thrive, without harming, without fear, without greed." Elias took a deep breath, feeling a profound sense of purpose. "Then we'll continue. We'll learn, guide, and grow with it. Together." Leora nodded, resting a hand on his shoulder. "Together. And we'll see just how far humanity can go when we embrace connection, empathy, and life itself." And somewhere deep inside, both of them understood that the bloom was only the start. A new chapter of human potential had begun, one that would change not only their habitat but perhaps every corner of the universe humanity touched. For the first time, Elias and Leora truly felt it. A future where humans could grow, adapt, and thrive not by conquering life, but by becoming part of it. The morning light spilled across Eos Haven, painting the floating gardens in warm shades of gold and green. Humans moved through the habitat with a quiet energy, their steps purposeful, yet relaxed. The bloom had not only affected a few individuals, it was now subtly touching everyone. Cooperation, creativity, and care for life had begun to ripple through the community. Elias and Leora walked side by side along one of the suspended pathways, observing the scene below. Children floated above the water channels, constructing intricate play structures that doubled as small ecosystems. Adults coordinated in groups, testing new irrigation methods, or designing artistic structures inspired by the glowing plants. The habitat felt alive in a way that transcended technology. It pulsed with understanding, empathy, and life. "Look at them," Elias whispered. "It's like the bloom is spreading. People aren't just learning, they're teaching each other. Sharing, collaborating. This is bigger than I imagined." Leora nodded. "Yes. The bloom isn't just in individuals. It's in the community. And the more we share it, the stronger it grows. It's like a wave, starting with a ripple." They stopped at a small garden cluster where volunteers were testing new plants enhanced by the bloom. Leora knelt beside a vibrant flower, its petals shifting gently in response to her touch. "These plants are learning too," she said softly. "They adapt to human care, to energy, to guidance. It's a partnership." Elias crouched beside her, examining the data from his portable tablet. The readings were astonishing. Nutrient production had increased, resilience to environmental changes had improved, and pollination rates had doubled. "This is incredible," he murmured. "Not just for food, but for life itself. Humans can now support ecosystems, not just survive in them." As they observed, a group of children approached, carrying small seedlings. They offered them to Leora, who gently guided them in planting the young plants in the garden. "Thank you," she said softly. "You're helping life grow." One of the children, a girl with bright eyes, looked up at her. "We learned from you. You make it fun, and the plants like us." Leora laughed quietly. "Yes, they do. And you're teaching me too." Elias watched, feeling a warmth spread through him. The bloom was creating not just stronger humans, but kinder humans. Empathy and cooperation were becoming second nature, and children were at the heart of it. They were learning to nurture life from the start, to see the connection between themselves and the world around them. Later, the two scientists visited the habitat's floating classrooms. Students were experimenting with new forms of energy collection, inspired by the bloom. Some had designed small machines that could absorb sunlight and transfer it to glowing plants. Others were creating artistic representations of energy patterns, blending science and art seamlessly. Leora knelt beside a young boy, guiding his hands as he adjusted a small solar panel. "See how it works?" she asked. "When we give energy in the right way, life responds. We don't force it. We guide it gently." The boy's face lit up. "It works! The plants are glowing brighter." Elias smiled, observing the scene. "This is exactly what we hoped for. People learning, sharing, improving life. Without force, without rules. Just understanding and care." After the classroom visits, they returned to the main garden cluster where adults were testing nutrient-rich plants that could sustain multiple ecosystems. Leora's presence seemed to enhance the plant's growth, and Elias noted that her energy patterns mirrored the bloom itself, calm, balanced, and full of life. "Do you think people realize what they're doing?" Elias asked. Leora shook her head. "Some do, some don't. But that's okay. The bloom doesn't need recognition. It spreads naturally. When humans act with care and curiosity, it responds. And when they make mistakes, it teaches gently, without harm. They spent the afternoon observing how the bloom influenced human interactions. Conflicts that had previously arisen, disagreements over resources or scheduling, were now resolved through conversation and mutual understanding. Creativity flourished in ways Elias had never imagined. Even small actions, like helping a struggling plant or guiding a young animal, were shared joyfully. Elias felt a surge of pride and hope. Humanity was evolving, not through technology or dominance, but through connection and care. And Leora, with her serene presence, had become a living example of what the bloom could do for individuals and communities alike. As evening approached, the habitat shifted into its soft moonlight mode. Floating gardens glowed faintly, and the water channels shimmered with gentle energy. Humans moved about quietly, sharing ideas, helping each other, or simply enjoying the calm of the habitat. Elias and Leora stood on one of the observation platforms, looking out over the glowing gardens. "It's beautiful," Elias said. "Not just the habitat, but how people are becoming better, kinder, more connected." Leora smiled. "Yes. And it's only the beginning. The bloom has shown us what humans can be when we listen, observe, and care. Imagine what could happen on a larger scale. Other habitats, other planets. The potential is limitless." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. "We have to guide this carefully. Teach, inspire, but never control. Let people discover their own connection to life." Leora rested a hand on his arm. "Exactly. We are not leaders, not rulers. We are facilitators of understanding. And in time, humanity will learn to thrive naturally, in harmony with life." That night, as the habitat's lights dimmed further, Elias and Leora observed the glowing gardens from their small observation room. The air was filled with a soft hum, the energy of the bloom, the pulse of life responding to care and curiosity. Humans rested peacefully. Small creatures nestled among the foliage, and plants shimmered softly in response to the moonlight. Elias spoke quietly. "Do you ever wonder if this can reach beyond the habitat?" Leora looked thoughtful. "I think it can. The bloom is a teacher, not a cage. Wherever humans carry understanding, empathy, and care, it will follow. We just have to help them see it." Elias smiled, feeling hope swelling in his chest. "Then we'll guide them, help them grow. And maybe the ripple will reach the stars." The next morning, they began organizing small workshops throughout the habitat. Residents were encouraged to experiment, observe, and share their experiences. Children led gardening projects, adults experimented with energy flow in new habitats, and everyone contributed in some way. Even those who had previously been skeptical of the bloom began to notice changes in themselves and the world around them. They felt calmer, more connected, more capable of understanding others. Disagreements became discussions, mistakes became lessons, and innovation blossomed alongside cooperation. Elias and Leora worked tirelessly, observing, guiding, and recording. Yet they never imposed rules. They let the bloom teach in its own way, knowing that true growth came from understanding, not force. As the day ended, Leora placed her hand on a small plant that glowed faintly in response. "Do you see?" she whispered. "Even the smallest actions ripple outward. Life responds to care. Humans respond to life. And together, we can make something extraordinary." Elias watched, feeling a sense of awe and responsibility. Humanity was learning a new way of existing, one that celebrated connection, empathy, and growth. And he knew that this ripple would not stop here. It would spread, slowly but surely, inspiring future generations to live in harmony with life itself. And somewhere deep inside, both Elias and Leora understood that the bloom was not just a phenomenon, it was a beginning. A beginning of a future where humans could flourish, not through force, not through control, but through understanding, empathy, and the simple act of caring for life. The morning on Eos Haven was calm, almost sacred. Sunlight poured across the floating gardens, making every leaf shimmer and every flower glow. The gentle hum of the habitat filled the air, mingling with the soft laughter of children and the occasional chirp of small creatures. Life was vibrant, connected, and thriving. Elias and Leora walked along the main pathway, observing the results of months of careful guidance and bloom-influenced growth. The habitat was no longer just a place where humans lived. It had become a living testament to what humanity could achieve when it embraced understanding, empathy, and harmony. "Look at them," Elias said softly, gesturing to a group of residents tending the gardens. "Not just the children or the volunteers, but everyone. They've learned to care for each other and for life itself." Leora smiled. "Yes. And it's spreading. The bloom isn't just a change, it's a way of being. People are learning to listen, to share, to nurture. And it doesn't require rules or orders. It just grows naturally." Elias knelt beside a small cluster of plants that had been struggling before the bloom took hold. Now they stood tall, their leaves vibrant and strong. "I never thought humans could achieve this," he whispered. "Not just survival, but true flourishing." Leora placed a hand on his shoulder. "It was always possible. We just needed the right moment." And the bloom was the teacher. They continued walking, passing a group of students who were building a floating greenhouse. The children worked together effortlessly, guiding small animals, adjusting water channels, and experimenting with new ways to enhance plant growth. Leora knelt to show them a subtle adjustment to the system, and the plants responded immediately, bending gently toward the optimal light. "See?" she said softly. "Life responds when we guide it with care." One of the older students, a boy with a bright smile, looked up at her. "We're learning. We can help life grow." Leora laughed quietly. "Yes, and you're teaching all of us too." Elias watched, feeling a deep sense of pride and hope. The bloom had done more than enhance human biology. It had transformed human behavior, creativity, and connection. People were thriving not because of technology or force, but because they had learned to nurture, to understand, and to cooperate. By midday, the two scientists visited the community's central hub, where humans were experimenting with new energy patterns inspired by the bloom. Solar arrays were now connected to floating gardens, creating a seamless cycle of energy, growth, and care. Artists painted in harmony with nature, engineers designed structures that mimicked the patterns of life, and teachers guided students in understanding the delicate balance of the habitat. Elias leaned against the railing, observing the harmony. This is what humanity can be. Not just surviving, not just creating, but thriving in connection with life. And the bloom, it's only the beginning. Leora nodded. Yes, it's a beginning, but it's also a reminder. Harmony requires attention, care, and respect. Humans have the potential for great understanding, but they must choose to nurture it, not neglect it. As the afternoon sun reached its peak, they visited a small wildlife reserve within the habitat. Small creatures moved freely among the plants, responding to human presence with curiosity rather than fear. Birds perched on residents' shoulders, tiny mammals followed their footsteps, and even the smallest insects moved confidently among the floating gardens. Leora knelt to observe a group of glowing fish in a shallow pool. She placed her hand above the water, and the fish swirled toward her, moving in harmony with her energy. "Do you see?" she whispered. "Life responds to understanding. Humans respond to life. And when both are in balance, this is the result." Elias watched, amazed. It's perfect. Not because everything is easy, but because everything is alive, connected, cared for. As evening approached, the habitat shifted into its soft moonlight mode. The floating gardens glowed faintly, and the water channels shimmered with gentle light. Humans moved quietly, sharing ideas, helping each other, or simply enjoying the calm of the environment. Even those who had been skeptical of the bloom now participated willingly, smiling as they guided plants, tended animals, or collaborated on creative projects. Elias and Leora found themselves on an observation platform, looking out over the glowing gardens. "It's amazing," Elias said. "The bloom didn't just change individuals, it changed the community, the culture, the way people live and think." Leora rested her hand on his arm. "Yes. And it can go even further. Humans are learning how to live in harmony here. But imagine the possibilities if they carry this understanding to new habitats, new worlds. The ripple could reach far beyond Eos Haven." Elias nodded. "Then we must continue guiding, helping, and observing. But always gently, never forcing. True growth comes from understanding, not control." That night, they walked through the habitat's floating gardens, watching as humans quietly interacted with life. Children played creatively. Inspired by plants and animals, adults shared knowledge and experience. Energy flowed naturally, enhancing growth and cooperation. The bloom pulsed softly. A silent teacher reminding everyone that life thrived best when nurtured, respected, and understood. Elias turned to Leora. "Do you ever wonder what life could be like on other worlds, if humans carry this understanding with them?" Leora smiled faintly. "I think about it often. The bloom is a teacher, yes, but the lesson is universal. Where humans act with care, understanding, and empathy, life will thrive. And humanity can flourish anywhere, if we remember what we've learned here." Elias took a deep breath, feeling hope and purpose swell within him. "Then we'll help them. Every step, every choice, every lesson. And maybe one day, life across the universe will flourish because of it." As the night deepened, the floating gardens shimmered in the soft glow of the habitat's artificial moonlight. Small creatures settled into foliage. Children slept peacefully in their pods. And the plants pulsed faintly, reflecting the energy of care and understanding. Elias and Leora stood together, watching the calm, breathing life around them. "I'm just full," Leora said quietly, a gentle smile on her lips. Elias turned to her, understanding immediately. "Full of life, full of connection, full of hope," she nodded. "Yes. And that's what humans can be, too, if they choose to live with care, curiosity, and harmony." The two stood together in silence, feeling the pulse of the bloom, the heartbeat of the habitat, and the promise of humanity's potential. The ripple of understanding, empathy, and growth had begun, and there was no limit to how far it could go. For the first time, Elias truly believed in the future. Humanity could thrive not through force, not through machines, not through domination, but through connection, understanding, and care. The bloom had taught them this lesson, but it was humans who would carry it forward, shaping the future of life wherever they went. And in that moment, under the soft glow of Eos Haven, Elias and Leora understood that the bloom was not just a phenomenon, it was a beginning of a new era, where humans and life itself could flourish together, in harmony, on any world, in any corner of the universe. The stars beyond the habitat twinkled like tiny beacons, reflecting the infinite possibilities ahead. And within the heart of Eos Haven, humanity had learned a new way to exist, one of empathy, connection, creativity, and hope. The ripple of life, understanding, and care had spread, and there was no turning back. The future was bright. Elias looked at Leora, smiling. "This is only the start." "This," Leora smiled back. "Yes, the start of something extraordinary." And together, they stepped forward into the glowing heart of the habitat, ready to guide humanity into a future full of life, understanding, and harmony.